No, the first one was Geronimo Yanis.
Okay. Wait, was that the Philando Castile?
Yes, that was Paul and I did that one.
You successfully defended him, right? He was
yes.
Okay. Yes,
we had a decent jury.
Right.
Jury selection began this morning in a case that's received worldwide attention.
Now, this case is personal to a lot of different people around the world, in fact, for a lot of different reasons. One reason is that we all saw the aftermath firsthand.
I mean, he was reaching for his wallet, and the officer just shot him in his arm.
I told him not to reach for it. I told him to get his hand out.
Oh, my God, please don't tell me he's dead. Please don't tell me my boyfriend just went like that.
A shocking video shot by passenger Diamond Reynolds was instantly posted to Facebook, and quickly the shooting of Castile sparked angry protests at the governor's residence and marches.
Tens of thousands of people taking to the streets, blocking roads, bridges, and highways. More than 100 people were arrested Saturday night at Interstate 94 during a standoff with police. In cities from Chicago to Atlanta to Baton Rouge to St. Paul, Los Angeles, Phoenix, New York City, more than 300 people were arrested nationwide, including 160 in Baton Rouge.
Philando Castile. As I said in the statement that I posted on Facebook, we have seen tragedies like this too many times.
And once again reignited a national debate on police violence. Philando Castile's mother.
They're coming from you, for you, and all your interracial children. Y'all are next.
The governor of Minnesota, I understand, is calling for an investigation there as well.
Would this have happened if those passengers, the driver and the passenger, were white? I don't think it would have. So I'm forced to confront, and I think all of us in Minnesota are forced to confront, that this kind of racism exists.
And I have full confidence in the Justice Department's ability to conduct a thorough and fair inquiry. But what I can say is that all of us as Americans should be troubled by these shootings, because these are not isolated incidents. They're symptomatic of a broader set of racial disparities that exist in our criminal justice system.
This is a system that's used to literally whitewash police officer-involved shootings, not just in Minnesota, but all over the country. And I think that we need our our prosecutorial authority to step up and say, this is the law, these are the facts, we're going to put this in front of a jury, and they get to decide what they decide. But there's going to be some accountability here, because this is an outrageous epidemic problem.
We filed a criminal complaint this morning in Ramsey County District Court charging Officer Yanez with second-degree manslaughter in the death of Philando Castile and 2 felony counts of dangerous discharge of a firearm that endangered the safety of Diamond Reynolds and her 4-year-old daughter, the 2 passengers in the car.
I promise that I will do everything, and my administration will do everything in our power to see that this matter is brought to justice and appropriate, and that all avenues are pursued to do a complete investigation and to make, as you said before, Reverend Herron, that justice is served. Justice will be served in Minnesota. Justice will be served in Minnesota.
I can't sit here and say that I appreciate anything that Governor Dayton said, because this is the 3rd time I've been to your house and my people being murdered, fam. This is the 3rd time I've been to this mansion regarding my people being murdered. I've been to your house, never been invited here as a guest to meet you, as a community activist and leader. I've been to your house because your people keep killing my people. Your staff keep killing my staff. Put some respect on our people's name.
For more than 4 hours overnight, police tried to get the crowd under control. Some hurled broken concrete, rocks, rebar, and even fireworks at officers.
That's really a disgrace. And protesters last night turned into criminals.
21 police officers were injured. At a news conference, police showed an officer's steel badge dented. The protests were in response to the police shooting of 32-year-old Philando Castile, streamed live on Facebook.
Under Minnesota law, the use of deadly force by a police officer is justified only when necessary to protect the officer or another from apparent death or great bodily harm.
As for Officer Yanez, Paulson told the jury that he chose to use deadly force as a first option and not a last resort. Next was lead defense attorney Earl Gray, who told the courtroom Castile prompted the incident and that Officer Yanez fired those shots because he feared for his own life.
Yanez's attorneys argued throughout the trial that there's more to the case, that Yanez thought Castile might be a suspect in a recent armed robbery.
Just a day earlier, police released these images of suspects from a recent robbery.
The driver appeared to match the physical description of our suspect from the strong arm robbery. As soon as I get up to the car, I'm hit with a odor of burning marijuana.
This morning, Diamond Reynolds, the former girlfriend of Castile, took the stand again to testify.
Now, she was under cross-examination by defense attorney Earl Gray this morning. She said she didn't know about the marijuana, however, in the car before the traffic stop. 6 ounces were found inside that car. The defense also focused on inconsistencies between Reynolds' statement to police and public statements after the shooting.
The officer didn't know. He didn't know that he had a firearm until he had difficulties reaching in his right pocket to get his wallet.
On the witness stand this morning, Reynolds said Philando Castile was trying to take off his seatbelt the moment that he was shot.
He did not do nothing but what the police officer asked of us, which was to put your hands in the air and get your license and registration.
Of course, the Facebook Live video that was seen by millions of people, Reynolds told jurors Castile was trying to unbuckle his seatbelt.
Now that my boyfriend told him that he has a firearm on him as he was reaching for his registration and his license, which is in his back pocket, the gun was in his way and he wasn't able to get to his license and registration. And the officer already with his gun blazing, cocked and everything, don't move, and took off. And that was it. As we said no, he tells us to put our hands in the air. We have our hands in the air.
Why would your hands need to be in the air?
At the time as our hands is in the air, he asks for license and registration. My boyfriend carries all his information in a thick wallet in his right side back pocket. As he's reaching for his back pocket wallet, he lets the officer know, "Officer, I have a firearm on me." I begin to yell, but he's licensed to carry. After that, he began to take off shots. But, don't move. But how can you not move when you're asking for license and registration? It's either you want my hands in the air or you want my information and my identification. It's either you want me to freeze when I'm not being arrested or you want me to reach for my identification to let you know who I am. I can't do two things at one time.
Listen,
okay?
Set him up.
Well, sir. Good. How are you? Good. Reason I put you over, your brake lights are out. So you only have one active brake light, and that's going to be your passenger side one. Your third brake light, which is up here on top, and then this one back here, is going to be out. You have your license and insurance?
I do have a firearm on me.
Don't reach for it then. Don't pull it out.
I'm not pulling it out.
Don't pull it out. Don't pull it out. Don't move. Fuck. Fuck. Don't move. Don't move. Don't move. Code 3! Get the baby girl out of here!
That dash cam video shown on day one details how quickly this unfolded. Castile says, "I do have to tell you I have a firearm on me." Yanez, "Okay, don't reach for it now."
He describes to jurors after learning of Castile's firearm, saying, "As he told me, I said, okay, don't reach for it then." He immediately began reaching down. I told him, don't reach for it. That's when he began pulling it out. Yanez then explains he had it out enough so I could see the top of the slide, referring to a gun in Castile's right front shorts pocket. He describes to jurors learning of Castile's firearm, saying, quote, "As he told me, I said, okay, don't reach for it then." He immediately began reaching down. I told him, don't reach for it. And that's when he began pulling it out. Yanez then explains to jurors, quote, He had it out enough so I could see the top of the slide, referring to a gun in Castile's right front shorts pocket. That's when I engaged Mr. Castile and shot him.
He was pulling out the gun and the barrel just kept coming out.
In his formal statement taken the next day, documents say Yanez describes what the gun looked like, the caliber and the color. The description matches the gun that fell from Castile's right pocket.
The next witness was St. Anthony Police Chief John Mangseth. He told the jury that Officer Yanez was set to be promoted prior to the shooting, acting as one of the public faces for the department in the community. Both sides grilled him about how officers are trained, reaction time, and the use of force on the job. When asked if deadly force would be permitted if an officer was told by a driver that they had a gun, but they reached for it after being told not to, Mangseth responded that it would be concerning and he would expect actions to be taken based on how quickly things can happen.
For 18 years before instructing over 1,000 future police officers at MSU, including Geronimo Yanez and Joseph Kauser. He says they were known for being standout students.
Police officer Joe Kauser, of course, he was the partner who was backing up Yanez that night. Kauser said, "I trust him as a partner," and he did what he had to do in that situation. St. Anthony Police Chief, as well as a fellow use of force training officer. Police Chief John Mangseth pointed to the department's sanctity of life creed. But as to deadly force, he added, sometimes you can't wait. No.
I thought he was going to shoot and kill me, and I thought he was going to shoot and kill my partner right after that.
And Yanez goes on to say, he had total disregard for my commands. Now his voice was breaking. He was wiping away tears at this point when Yanez added, I had no other choice. Yanez adds, he had total disregard for my commands. His voice breaking and wiping away tears. Yanez adds, I had no other choice. I didn't want to shoot Mr. Castile. And when asked if he was scared, Yanez said he was thinking of his wife and small child, adding, I thought I was going to die.
Did jurors believe Yanez when he testified, I was scared to death. I thought I was going to die. I saw my family pop into my head.
Prosecutor Jeff Paulson told jurors it makes no sense Castile would have gone for his gun. He had no reason to do that, Paulson said.
I don't have really much to say.
That's defense attorney Earl Gray, who in his closing arguments asked jurors to use their common sense. Why would he have opened fire if he hadn't seen Philando Castile pulling his gun, he asked.
Why would Yanez shoot, Gray asked, unless he saw Castile's hand on the gun? Quote, he knew where the gun was and he described it. How did Officer Yanez know that unless he saw it? Gray accused the prosecution of taking statements following the shooting out of context and ended by saying, quote, it's not that hard of a case. Think about it. Think about an officer in that position.
He also defended his client's actions, saying that Officer Yanez thought Castile was about to shoot him and only had a second and a half to decide.
When you're this close to somebody, 3 feet away, 2 feet away, and a guy's pulling out a gun and he's not paying attention to your orders, as a law enforcement officer, you have one duty, and that's to save yourself.
The defendant, tears on the witness stand, told the jury he had no other choice.
Attorney Paul Ng told jurors, quote, this case is an unending tragedy for the Castile family and Officer Yanez, but it is not a crime. Tragedy is not a crime.
In my opinion, the case should have never been charged.
And the jury's not guilty verdict showed they believe Yanez acted as any reasonable officer would.
The public does not want to accept this, but law enforcement officers are taught to shoot until the threat ends, and that's what he did. And they're also taught to shoot to the trunk, to the body. He didn't do that because of the folks in the car. He shot on the left side and shot his left arm when he shot down. He did everything according to protocol.
You could clearly see the strain and fatigue in faces. The 12 men and women who'd been living ordinary lives until they'd sit in judgment of an extraordinary trial.
It was very, very draining.
Dennis Ploussard felt compelled to talk of the pains each juror felt, carefully weighing evidence and testimony over 5 days. It would take them 5 more to decide Officer Yanez's fate.
This was not taken lightly whatsoever. I mean, at the end, I was fed up, and I told all the jurors, I'm fed up. Let's just call it. Let's just call a hung jury.
It was pretty even to start with, but within a couple of hours, it went to 8-4, and it stayed 8-4 for a couple of days.
She says the 2 black jurors were not holdouts and says the factor of race in Philando Castile's stop was something they addressed.
And one of the first things that we clarified and asked them if they felt that it was racially profiled, and neither one of them felt that it was.
And that was one of the first questions I asked on Monday afternoon is, does anybody believe this is racial connected? And we all agreed it wasn't.
And the two who held out 4 more days for conviction.
We had 10 whites and 2 blacks. The 2 blacks were not the holdouts.
Ploussard said that the expert witnesses were interesting, but not the most important factor for the jurors.
What it really boiled down to is he kept reaching when Yanez gave 3 commands, don't reach, and he kept reaching.
But he doesn't necessarily believe Philando Castile wanted to shoot the officer.
He might have been pulling it out just because he wants to show the officer, because he told the officer he had a gun. So he might have been just pulling out, so here you go.
His first reaction to the dash cam video?
Well, to tell you the truth, I thought it was disgusting. I say, how could a guy shoot a guy like that?
But as the trial wore on,
my position changed.
He had a firearm.
As for Castile's girlfriend, Diamond Reynolds, who brought the world's attention to the case,
I feel so sorry for Diamond Reynolds, I do. I mean, I absolutely do. But personally, I didn't find her credible.
So I chose to allow the video to go live 10 seconds before my phone died because I wanted everybody in the world to see what the police do and how they roll. And it's not right. It's not acceptable. I didn't do it for pity. I didn't do it for fame. I did it so that the world knows that these police are not here to protect and serve us. They are here to assassinate us. They are here to kill us because we are black.
All I would like to say to everybody tonight is our police are not here to protect us and they are not here to serve us.
Unquestionably unjustified.
It's a murder.
And is a murder.
Not a homicide.
Don't move. Don't move. But how can one put his hands in the air and grab for identification at the same time? It was a setup.
The jury's reaction to the Castile family storming out of the courtroom?
All my jurors that I was with for this week felt the same thing I felt, devastated for the family. But it came down where the verdict was, I felt, the right verdict according to what the law states.
And Amelia, I just spoke with Earl Gray. He is one of the attorneys for Officer Geronimo Yanez. He told me that after the verdict was read, Yanez was so shook up he couldn't speak. He calls this a devastating incident for his client and says it is something that he will never get over. He said Yanez met briefly with his legal team for just a few minutes after the verdict. He said he was humble and he thanked that entire team, and then they went their separate ways. As far as Earl Gray's reaction to the not guilty verdict, he said he was pleased for the Yanez family and called it a correct verdict. He said if someone sat through the entire trial, that they would see that the prosecution did not come close to proving their case. He also said he does not feel that Yanez should ever have been charged.
My take on that is that if he was tried nowadays, after reading a substantial amount of questionnaires, I think we'd have a lot harder job getting him acquitted.
Yeah, and that was the kind of the question. Sorry, what was that?
Rule.
Right. Yeah,
It's really sad because the politics have now entered the criminal law and the criminal trials, and it's just sad that you got a prosecutor after the case bragging about how his team inflicted pain on this poor defendant. It just it upsets me. Let's put it that way.
Right.
I am disappointed that the jury chose to acquit. It gives one the sense that, that there's no accountability, that there's impunity, that the police can operate in any way they want. And even if they kill you, nobody's going to really be held accountable. So at the end of the day, I think that we really have to dig into our criminal justice system. And look, most police are there to do the right thing. But on the occasions when things go horribly wrong, it happens so much that it feels systemic. And I think statistics show that it is systemic.
Authorities have released dashcam video revealing the chilling moments that led to a police officer shooting and killing Philando Castile during a traffic stop last year in Minnesota. The video comes just 4 days after a jury found the police officer not guilty.
Philando Castile, as a gentle soul,
Mr. Rogers with deadlocks, they called him. And know that his life mattered to a whole lot of people of all races, of all ages.
And you saw in that piece from Eva now, the officer's attorney is now speaking out as well. He says this was all about the presence and display of a gun, that it wasn't about race, and that he has audio and video that backs up that case. How do you respond to that?
I'm appalled that they would even say that,
In all, Reynolds will receive $800,000. The city of St. Anthony is paying $675,000 of that. After the shooting, Reynolds claims that she was falsely arrested and was subjected to emotional distress during questioning, so that additional $125,000 will be coming from the League of Minnesota Cities Insurance Trust on behalf of the city of Roseville.
I've seen you look over at your daughter several times here over just the last few minutes. What do you say to her when you hug her at night?
I just tell her to stay strong, and we're going to be okay, and we're going to get the justice that we deserve.
Your 4-year-old little daughter was right there in the back seat. She saw it all.
Smoking his blunt. Okay, Dad.
Girlfriend of the late Philando Castile is behind bars this morning, charged with violently attacking another woman.
Diamond Reynolds is accused of attacking and hitting another woman with a hammer last week. Reynolds is the one who went on Facebook Live after a St. Anthony police officer shot and killed her boyfriend during a traffic stop last summer.
Now, Reynolds was arrested with 2 other women in connection with this assault that happened on Tuesday morning on St. Paul's East Side.
According to charges, Reynolds took part in a hammer attack on a 25-year-old woman. The victim said Reynolds pulled out a hammer and hit her on the head while another person grabbed her hair. A third woman sprayed her with bear mace
and was taken to Regions Hospital with serious injuries.
They did convict Reynolds of misdemeanor assault.
Minnesota's Ramsey County Attorney John Choi has announced he will stop prosecuting most felony cases
because it has this really huge impact on people of color, especially African Americans.
Officer Yanez had an unreasonable fear of Philando Castile as a black man. It is unfathomable to me how any member of the jury could have watched that video, not once, but multiple times, and reached the conclusion that Officer Yanez was justified in killing Philando Castile. That is absolutely absurd.
Now, I did just check in with the organizers, and they say they have no plans as to when this march will end tonight. Again, as we take a look from Sky 4, this crowd stands at about 2,000. They are nearing the governor's mansion along Summit Avenue in St. Paul.
At times, anger boiled over through speeches and signs we can't put on TV, a testament to a deep divide that remains.
You killed my friends, and I'm sick of y'all. Minnesota, you are not nice.
The cop panics and shoots this young man
He
four
what?
times in the chest.
He what?
He panicked.
He panicked.
And shot him
He
4
panicked.
times
So
in the chest.
this
He
isn't racially
overreacted,
motivated.
and he killed him.
Panicked. He panicked. 47% of all police officers lose their lives at traffic stops. Not because they're shot by someone, but because they're mowed down by a motorist that may be texting or is doing something else when they should be driving. When a cop walks up to your car, they are already on edge. They're already nervous. I get nervous when a police officer pulls me over. I'm white. And you're probably saying, why should I feel that way? Because I respect the law and they have power and authority. And the very first thing I do, Quanell, is I put my license, registration, and insurance card up on the dashboard.
Steve,
I turn the dome light on, and I put my arms where the police can see them. I leave one hanging out the window.
You and I
that
both
matters.
Know. Steve, stop
that
it.
matters.
Let me make my point. You and I both know you have the complexion for the protection.
On the streets of Harlem in New York and in Minnesota, the reaction to the not guilty verdict was met with disbelief. After 5 days of deliberation, the jury found Officer Geronimo Yanez not guilty in the death of Philando Castile.
This cop killed this young man, and this young man should not have been murdered.
You are stirring
and
up
America
hatred and fear.
must change.
You are stirring up
If
hatred
America don't change,
and fear
she's
in
going
the
to destroy
black
herself.
So with that, I was just wondering if you feel like there's the possibility of having, I guess, an objectively fair trial for a police officer right now in the current climate.
It's going to be difficult. I'll tell you that.